Therefore the Lord heard this, and was wroth. So a fire was kindled against Jacob, and anger also came up against Israel. Psalm 78, verse 21. God hears the demands. His response is wrath. Asaph uses two images, fire kindled and anger rising. Both describe the same divine response to the same sin, but the repetition drives the point home. The fire does not ignite against Egypt or Canaan. It kindles against Jacob, against Israel, and against the people God redeemed. The covenant relationship does not protect them from God's anger. It intensifies accountability. The Most High, whom they had provoked, now responds as the Lord who hears, because they believed not in God and trusted not in his salvation. Psalm 78, verse 22. Asaph names the root, not the demand for meat, not the question about the table. The root is unbelief. They did not believe the words of God. They did not trust his salvation. Every provision God gave was evidence of his character. Every miracle was a declaration of who he was. Israel received the evidence and refused the conclusion. Unbelief does not mean they denied God's existence. It means they refused to rest on what God had shown. The water from the rock was proof. They drank it and still did not trust, though he had commanded the clouds from above and opened the doors of heaven. Psalm 78, verse 23. Asaph catalogues what God did in response, not in judgment, but in provision. God commanded the clouds. He opened the doors of heaven. The imagery is sovereign and deliberate. God commands creation to cooperate with his purpose for his people, and had rained down manna upon them to eat, and had given them of the corn of heaven. Psalm 78, verse 24. The manna fell like rain. God rains bread. Israel called it manna, which means, what is it? But Asaph calls it the corn of heaven, bread from God's own dwelling. The provision is extraordinary. It is not wilderness food, it is heavenly food. Man did eat angels' food. He sent them meat to the full. Psalm 78, verse 25. Israel ate food belonging to the realm of heaven. Asaph calls it angels' food, not because angels require it, but because it originates from that realm. God sent it to the full, not sparingly, to the fullness. The provision was complete and generous. The people who asked whether God could furnish a table in the wilderness received a table set from heaven itself. He caused an east wind to blow in the heaven, and by his power he brought in the south wind. Psalm 78, verse 26. God moves the wind. He directs the east wind and brings the south wind. Both serve his purpose. Creation operates under his command, not as independent forces, but as instruments of his will. He rained flesh also upon them as dust, and feathered fowls like as the sand of the sea. Psalm 78, verse 27. God answers their demand for flesh. The quantity is described as dust and as sand of the sea. Numbers 11, verse 31, records quail covering the camp a day's journey on every side. The demand for meat receives an answer that overwhelms any natural expectation. And he let it fall in the midst of their camp, round about their habitations. Psalm 78, verse 28. The quail does not fall at a distance requiring effort to retrieve. It falls amidst the camp, around their habitations. God brings the provision to them. So they did eat and were well filled, for he gave them their own desire. Psalm 78, verse 29. They ate and were satisfied. God gave them their own desires, not his desire for them, their desire. The distinction is significant. What they craved, they received. They were not estranged from their lust, but while their meat was yet in their mouths. Psalm 78, verse 30. The lust remains active even while eating. Satisfaction never arrives because the appetite driving the demand is not hunger, but lust. The meat is still in their mouths. The wrath of God came upon them, and slew the fattest of them, and smote down the chosen men of Israel. Psalm 78, verse 31. God's wrath falls while they eat. The strongest among Israel, the chosen men, are struck down.